talking about cultural bifurcation. Woke NBC issues apology for misgendering Minneapolis child killer. Yeah, let me say that for you again. From the Daily Mail, woke NBC issues apology for misgendering Minneapolis child killer. Now let's get to the brass tacks on this one and clarify. I had tweeted this morning that NBC News apologizes to the shooter for misgendering them, and the headline from Mediaite says issues correction. To which liberals went, "This is why nobody likes MAGA. It was a correction, not an apology." My response: when you intentionally lie to a religious person who's threatening you, do we call that a correction? Sure, with air quotes, maybe. Yes, I'm correcting my behavior. I call it an act of contrition. So here's what happened. NBC News wrote about the child killer and said he, him. Later issued a correction on the article saying the shooter used her pronouns and changed the article to say she, her. The New York Times did the same. Now, this individual also wrote in Cyrillic, according to the New York Post, that they did not want to be trans. Therefore, they're a he, him. So what's happening is NBC News is apologizing to an ideology in an act of contrition. Please forgive us. We used the wrong pronoun. If they were actually correcting the record, they'd say, this is a male. He did this thing. So my argument is intentionally injecting fake information into an article to appease an ideological faction is an act of contrition, otherwise colloquially known as an apology.
I mean, that's what it was.
Oh, what does it mean for us as a society that we have prominent? I mean, NBC is one of the classic prominent media enterprises of the United States, and they're doing this.
Yeah, I mean, you still have the problem, like a lot of these news agencies, even though the culture of the United States has shifted right in the last 3 years, is the reality, and even across the political spectrum, is all of these newsrooms, their PAs, they're still activists fundamentally. Like a lot of these kids are still activists, and unfortunately, the way that media works, mass media, is it attracts a lot of former reformed theater kids who are still ultimately activists at the end of the day, and they're the ones that are in control of press releases like this.
I mean, I obviously agree with that, but I would take it probably even further, maybe, which is, look. If you're writing like a local article, if you're in like a very liberal jurisdiction, okay, you're in like San Francisco, whatever, and some local transgender person thinks it's a boy who thinks it's a girl, vice versa there, and you're a lefty publication, you want to apologize, fine. But let's not miss the forest for the trees here. This is a murderer. This is like a rampage mass murderer. I mean, this is demonic, satanic evil in our midst. I mean, not only should we not be apologizing for this, I mean, we should be deliberately spitting in this person's memory and like trying to condemn anything that this individual, male, female, boy, girl, who gives? Who the hell cares? I mean, this is demonic, satanic evil that we should smite out. May the memory be erased forever and ever. The notion we're going to somehow apologize to what? To the parents, to the quote unquote transgender community.
Who's offended by it?
Yeah. The gender dysphoria community is offended that a mass murderer person with gender dysphoria. I mean, it doesn't make sense.
I don't think the person even actually was trans. The reporting was that
they regretted it.
Yeah, it was, and right. So former trans. I guess I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
anti-Trump. What like didn't Rosie O'Donnell say that it was a MAGA person?
I don't pay any attention to Rosie O'Donnell. I have no idea.
What do you mean? I follow her musings every day. Or gentle musings.
Maybe I should.
For a good laugh.
But to your point, Josh, like the left can't help but do things that are essentially what normal people consider evil, right? They can't help but take the bad guy's side. They were taking the bad guy's side during all the BLM riots.
Yep.
They were on the side of the people that were literally rioting. The vice president was sending out messages for a GoFundMe to get people that had been arrested, get them bail money.
Bro,
they
made the orcs good guys.
Yeah.
In Lord, literally, Tolkien's like, orcs are just an embodiment of evil. And they're like, when we rewrite this, we're going to make the orcs relatable.
We're going to humanize them. Look, anytime anyone talks about Helldivers or Starship Troopers, they take the bug side. Take the bug side.
You know what's really funny is that before they made, I think Rings of Power was the series on Amazon, where they made the orcs into like regular people to sympathize with. There was a meme going around for a long time, where it's Lord of the Rings, and they're like, the orcs are about to storm the gates of Gondor, and they're like, well, let them in. Don't be racist.
Yeah.
And then they literally made it. For those that don't know, in Rings of Power, it got roasted because Tolkien I'm not a big Lord of the Rings person, but the general idea was that, like, I think the story is that elves were kidnapped, tortured, and turned into orcs or something. Or is that Uruk-hai? I don't know. But they were manifest evil by Mordor, made from dirt or something. And then they make the Rings of Power, and they're like, nah, orcs are people who are scared and fighting for their resources, and they show orcs with babies and like wives, and everyone was like, is this a joke? They were just supposed to be one-dimensional bad guys. But the left got a hold of it and said, nah, we're all about diversity. They're actually good guys.
It's ridiculous.
They actually like being the bad guys.
Yeah.
Well, take a look. My favorite example is Captain Marvel. In Captain America, the story is young man desperately wants to join the military and lies to try and join the military. And then during a training exercise, throws himself on the grenade, sacrifices himself to try and save his friends. Captain Marvel, she always had the power. It was suppressed by a man, and she robs a guy for telling her to smile. And that's what they think is good.
Wow.
They like being the villains.
Mm-hmm. They believe that they're oppressed. So whenever they violently act out, they think that, and whoever they side with is the oppressed person.
Right.
They believe that. So if that person violently reacts or acts out, then it's justified because whoever they're acting out against was their oppressor or is in line with their oppressor.
I mean, that's obviously their entire approach to the whole Middle East conflict as well, right?
It's
the exact same thing. Yeah.
It's the whole approach to life.
Yeah.
Well, you saw, like, after the shooting, you saw on Reddit people celebrating. They're saying, thank you for settling the score, because in their head, especially in the transgender community, in their head, the white, middle-class, Christian family is opponent number one, enemy number one, because those are the people that brought them into this world, and their life is suffering. Who are you going to blame for your life suffering? You're going to blame the people that brought you into this world, which is, families and children like this. And so that's like the enemy number one. Out of all the evil in the world, the number one group that they hate is just like normal, because that's what types of families they come from.
Did you guys see the Patrick Bet David surrounded by 20 anti-capitalists?
I didn't see the.
I saw a clip from this.
I think it was improperly titled. I think it's Patrick Bet David surrounded by 20 retards. Because, and I will say this, while PBD is largely correct, there were so many moments where I was like, he could have actually just hit a grand slam. Like, they set him up, but he didn't go for the debate talking point death blow. But you have all these people that do not understand the function of economics, work, labor, or otherwise. And so I was watching this and I was like, well, we're cooked. These young people who are anti-capitalist. We're saying, my favorite question that was asked of PBD was, how much money would you need to feed and house everybody, in the country or whatever? And that was a layup. That was a freebie for PBD to destroy anti-capitalist ideology. And instead, he asked her about what it means to be communist or something. This person, when they asked the question, how much money do you need to feed everybody in the world? My question is, how many calories are in a dollar bill? Do we know?
No.
Anybody? I'd imagine it's probably negative calories. Probably takes more money to digest the cloth paper than it does that. Oh, you didn't mean to literally eat the money. You meant how much food do you need and how much shelter do you need? But see, these leftist young people, not always young, don't understand you can't eat money. They think money turns into bread. That if you put $1 on the table, put a pillow over and go to bed, the bread fairy comes and takes the $1 and puts bread for you. Just magic. This is the mentality of the younger generations. The younger you get, the more likely they are to believe this. That money is like the food is just there. They literally were telling PBD that we're in a post-scarcity reality and that people like you, this is to PBD, are intentionally hoarding wealth to keep other people from eating.
It's ridiculous.
We are not post-scarcity at all. Someone had to make that bread, grow that wheat, harvest the wheat, and deliver it to the bakery where they could make the flour, smash the wheat into flour, or they probably just bought the flour from Cisco, and then make the bread and then sell to you. Leftists don't understand that money isn't food, and that if they had all the money in the world, they would not be able to buy a loaf of bread with it. This is the next generation that's coming up. So I'm kind of like, I look at that.
Well, I think
What are
like
we gonna do?
you see people you see people divorced from the mechanisms that create prosperity like throughout generations. Like baby boomers were the generation that effectively threw away the classical civilization of the Western Hemisphere. Like a large part was they were the first generation that permitted mass immigration, offshoring, like economic offshoring, introduced inflation, these sort of mass inflation through like the credit system and that sort of thing. So it's like a lot of times like, okay, yes, at Gen Z, it's a very practical thing. Like they just don't understand how food gets on the table. But you see this across generations that people in America are just completely divorced from the
increasingly.
mechanisms that create civilization.
Every generation, you get larger and larger cohorts of people who are developmentally disabled. We'll say that would be nice. What I mean by that is what you described. They're divorced from the reality of what makes society function.
Yeah, and it's like it's pertinent across all generations, at least since like after the World Wars. And also the composition of each generation has changed. Like boomers, they're much more cohesive, they're much more homogenous, and Zoomers are like very diverse in a like whole array of ways. So it's like, yeah, you're gonna get a lot of different answers from a lot of different Zoomers on things than you would get from baby boomers, just by nature of like how diverse or lack of homogeneity you have among Zoomers.
You know what? And you know what? No one wants to tell you, on the right or the left.
What?
Poverty is a requirement of a functioning society.
Yeah,
That's true.
There has to be a low class of people who are struggling and work as hard as they can and do jobs that the average person doesn't like to do. And nobody wants to tell you that because everybody wants to fight to break out of that bottom tier, that lower class of society. But, I'll explain it quite simply. If every single person had all of their needs met, what job would ever get done?
Right.
I mean, there's the argument that some people would be like, "Oh, well, I do this because I love it," but that would be an exceedingly small portion of the population would actually do things.
And that was easily disproven by the NEET generation.
Yeah.
Largely millennial and into Gen Z, people who live in the basements or spare bedrooms of their parents and don't get jobs because their needs are met,
Right.
and they don't have to. And this is also the welfare argument. People who, there's so many stories of people who are on welfare who say, well, the problem is if I do get a job, I'll actually make less money. So I'm better off staying on welfare. This is the issue. For a society to function, you need people who are going to wake up every day and say, I have to work, and I have to work hard. And some people aren't going to have the skills or the intelligence to make lots of money. So they're going to work really, really hard for a long time. And that's just reality. When two things are happening, back to population, people who don't have kids don't have to work. People who have kids have to work. So two things are happening. People are living with their parents, and their parents, their snowplow parents, are taking care of them, so they don't need jobs, so they don't work. Then you have other young people who are working the bare minimum to cover their basic needs, and without children, don't need to fight twice as hard. So what's now happening is, I was talking about this a month ago. I went to a club where I was, having a business meeting, and it was like a light club, and so we're talking about why we can't find contractors, and why no matter how many times we reach out to people, they're like, we're overbooked and we're booked out for 3 months, and I'm like, that's crazy. Is there nobody who can do a basic rudimentary contracting job? And I look out the window, and it's a Wednesday, and I see a gaggle of young men swimming and drinking beers and laughing. And I said, why aren't those young men saying right now, I got you, let's go to work? They don't have kids. So they're like, screw it, I'm going to go party.
Well, I mean, you see the meme of like, there's a TV, a bed, a chair, there's an Xbox, and people are like, oh, this is all a young guy needs. Like, there's a lot of dudes that are completely satisfied with internet access, some kind of distraction like Xbox, and a roof over their head. Not everybody, but there's a lot of people that are like, well, I've got all the stuff I need, so why do I have to go out and do more? The people that are actually motivated to go out and do stuff, that's probably a significantly small portion of the society.
Because I don't know if it's like children, because it's like, I think fertility directly correlates with lack of productivity. Like if you look at like Africa, I mean, it's like Exhibit A for low productivity with high fertility. In the United States, it's a bit different. Fertility is more correlated to like ideology, like Catholics and evangelicals and Muslims are above replacement, and agnostics, atheists are below replacement. So in America, it's more to do with like what's your family background than it is with like class or whatever.
Yeah, I mean that's where my mind goes for this whole conversation is religion. I mean my mind goes back virtually every time to the decline of organized religion, to the decline of church attendance, to the decline of people who believe in God, who are involved with their communities there. I mean, I've said this literally my entire adult life, actually. I've said if I could flip a switch and do literally one thing that would solve not literally every social problem we have there, but the overwhelming majority of America's problems, the closest thing that I'll put it this way, the closest thing that I can think to a one-stop panacea to put America back on the right track would be to put more Americans back in God-fearing churches. That is literally just the number one thing that would happen. I mean, for fertility, crisis of meeting, dating, marriage, getting married younger, foregoing, these stupid, student loan-driven, gender studies major, $200,000+ in debt degrees. Go date someone, learn a trade, be an apprentice, like actually learn something, do something in your life. All of this, I think, would just be fundamentally put back on the right track if we could get more people to actually start believing and actually go into peace again.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.